So I wanted to show you the first resin casting I did using the Amazing products that I purchased from Hobby Lobby, I guess it was. So here, I don't know if you can see, I used red and blue and some gold flake tint in there. Turned out pretty good, a little thin dimensionally. This was supposed to be enough for 4 pen blanks, but they're not quite 3/4. I wanted this to be 3/4 of an inch thick, but it's between 1/2 and 3/4, so it's a little light. So I need to adjust the volume of acrylic that I use next time. So I've already cut this into a pen blank, and I've drilled it and glued the tubes in. So I'm going to try turning it now on the lathe. Well, I hope you can see this. I've got the pen blank cut, the tubes glued in and mounted on the mandrel on the lathe, and I'm going to use my square carbide tool here to try to shape it, see how things go. I'm going to use the vacuum system and a mask because I don't know, since this being the first one, how well this is going to hold up, if it's going to come flying apart or what. So here we go. So I'm still working on this pen blank. Still have a flat spot here, even though I've taken it down quite a ways. That's just because it was very small on one of the dimensions. But overall, it's doing pretty good cutting in the lathe. I am hitting some bubbles here and there, but I've got it down fairly small. I've probably got about 1/8 of an inch above the tube, maybe a little bit more on this one. Same right there. This side's probably more like 3/16. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. There's a bubble there. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. But I'm going to keep going and see if I can get it down. By the way, this is 7mm tubes in here for a slimline pen, and I'm running at about 2500 RPM right now, cutting this. So I roughed it in at right at 2000 RPM, and then increased my speed to 2500 to start shaping it. So we'll continue on. Okay, so I've got this turned down as far as I want to turn it with tools. Actually looks pretty good. I'm going to sand it the rest of the way to the bushings there. I left quite a bit more than I normally do, but I'm trying to not let it blow out. And since this is the first one I've ever made from scratch, I kind of wanted to take my time and see. I am seeing little bubbles though. There's one right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. In the material. So I must have, I don't know. I left it in under vacuum the whole time, and I pulled it pretty far. So not sure what's going on there. Okay, so I've sanded this down to 600 grit. Let's see, I did 150, 240, 320, 400, and then 600. So that's down to 600. At this point, I use these micro mesh sanders to complete the finish. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I do these wet, and these go from 1500 to 12,000 grit. So they're really, really fine, and they do a really good job polishing acrylics. Spend a little more time on the first couple of micro mesh pads, the coarsest of the pads, just to make sure I get all the tool and sanding marks out of the pen barrels here. And I also, on the first couple, I also go back and forth across to take out any rotational marks. It's a shame about those bubbles. Other than that, this is a pretty nice looking blank. Now I'm just going to work through the rest of the grits. I do spend a little bit more time on the last two pads. They're the ones that actually polish it. And then I use some polishing cream to finish it. This is the last pad here. No, that's not what I wanted to do. All right. Interesting, it's a little bit cloudy and it has bubbles, so it definitely has some defects. I'm going to turn the camera off and move it closer so you can see the blank. Okay, so this is the blank, and it seems a little cloudy to me. I'm not sure why that is. These usually polish up pretty good. So this is my first try at making my own pen blanks. I'll show you the products I used. Okay, so I actually made my own little mold here to actually cast the resin. I just went and bought a $9 cutting board, maybe 8 in there. I also used these Pearl X I used the Pearlex Gold flake, this one here, and then the Amazing Clear Cast High Gloss 2-part clear coating and casting resin. I also bought from Hobby Lobby. You can see there it was $23.99. And then I bought these pigments for coloring polyester and epoxy resins. And that's what I used, the red and the blue in this particular one with the gold flake mixed in with the blue. So I put the red in first, held out a small part of the epoxy, mixed that with the blue and put some gold flake in it, and then drizzled that on top of the red base that I had already poured into the mold. So that's what I used.